Hi muckers, welcome back to my YouTube channel. I hope you're all doing very, very, very well. Okay, today's video we are going... Oh, sorry. Sorry. I forgot to address this. Okay. Sorry, we're not just going to get into today's video. I'm going to address this. So I recently did a 6-hour live stream on my YouTube channel, and there was a lot of moments where I had to go to the bathroom. And when I was going to the bathroom, basically there's just dead air. You know what I mean? Like there's no one in the seat. And I thought, what better way than to get a cardboard cutout of myself, life-size to the actual size that I am. Proportions are all correct. And it can, sit on camera every time I need a bathroom break. Genius. I might not move. Everyone will be like, wow, he's posing the fuck out of this. But at least I have a little stand-in now. And for the time being, I guess I'm just going to stand there, serving face. I mean, it's definitely quite jarring to see. It's weird perceiving myself, but, it is what it is, and now I have a stand-in, a fill-in. I love it. And I also, have a little co-host. Myself. I love it. Okay, welcome to today's video. I'm very, very, very excited. We're going to be talking about Trisha. Yeah, we are just going to move on with the video, so you need to... Oh, look at the little hair that went down. You're just going to need to acknowledge that this is going to be here now. So let's give a warm welcome. Today's video I'm really excited for. We're going to be talking about Trisha Paytas, and she, on Just Trish, her podcast, has talked about the David Dobrik, Casey Neistat situation. And now, we talked about this, and a lot of people had a lot of opinions on it, and I was very, very, very upfront with the fact that I find it incredibly frustrating and incredibly telling. So, Casey Neistat has been working on this documentary about David Dobrik, and it's completed, and it even premiered at South by Southwest, a huge film festival, to amazing feedback. It was written about by all these really, really, really big media, legacy media giants, and they all were praising it for the fact that it really exposed David Dobrik and the way he was handling situations. And, it very much so focused on the Dirty Dom situation, and then kind of focused a little bit on the Jeff situation, and just it was meant to be covering the rise of the biggest creator at the time. And in it, Casey Neistat uncovered a lot of really bad things about David Dobrik and covered him at times when he was really being canceled. And we were told that he had to get interviewed multiple times because he was not saying the right things, or he wasn't being compassionate, or whatever it was. And this documentary people have been waiting for. I've been waiting for it. A lot of people in my community have been waiting for it. And just the general public as well, because it debuted at a huge film festival to amazing, critiques. And so Casey Neistat went on a podcast and he was asked about it. And he said that he basically can't see it ever coming out. And the reason for the fact that it's never going to come out, in his opinion, as the filmmaker himself, like he literally created it, is, in his words, he wants to protect David Dobrik. Which is crazy, because he also said that he spoke with the victims of Dirty Dom, and let them see the doc before it premiered, and he supports them, and he talks to them, but he's not going to platform their stories publicly, even though he's saying that these huge, Netflix and whatever the fucking streaming services are, like, a lot of people really want this. He doesn't care about that because he doesn't want the feedback to go to David that what he would get when this would be published, which I just think is so disgusting that he is willing to also admit that he wants to protect David Dobrik, even though he is a documentary that has damning evidence of him being a horrible person and just exposing him for being a not so great person. I really went in depth about that. And so if you're interested in that in any way, I would, go to my video on David Dobrik and Casey Neistat. I really gave my opinions in there. But for today's video, I want to focus on what Trisha has to say. She has covered this, and it was a huge topic on her podcast. I've saved watching it until I can watch it here with you. So I'm very, very, very excited to jump into this. All right, let me load this up right here. Oh, also, tickets to my tour. I'm going on tour in the US in February are on sale right now. The Chronically Online tour. I cannot wait to meet all of the muckers. We're going to Brooklyn, Chicago, Seattle, LA, Dallas. Tickets are almost sold out for Chicago and LA. We have a limited ticket warning, but there are tickets available for all the other ones, and we are also adding other shows in different cities. So if you have not seen any of my other videos where I've said to leave cities down below, let me know, and let me know a city down below that maybe I'm not going to, that you would like me to come, because we are adding other shows for the summer, which is very exciting. Why have I just gotten so dark all of a sudden? But anyways, yes, if I'm not coming to your city, please let me know. But if you are in Dallas, LA, Seattle, Chicago, Brooklyn, I would love to meet you. It's February 18th, 19th, 21st, 23rd, and 25th. I'm very, very, very excited. This show is going to be incredibly deranged, and I can't wait. All right, let's get to this. So, Trisha Paytas talking about Casey Neistat and David Dobrik. Let's go, Trishy Fishy.
Time they were fierce.
Which I feel
I love Oscar's outfit here.
great one too, where everyone thought David Dobrik was the greatest comedian of all time on
Not
YouTube.
Not everyone thought this Casey Neistat.
Well, he did say
That was also what Casey said. He said he thought that David was one of the funniest comedians of all time, which, if you count obnoxiously laughing at other people's unfunny setup bits as the funniest comedian ever, then sure, David Dobrik's the funniest comedian ever.
like David Dobrik was and he was a very big YouTuber, which I'm kind of like side-eyeing everybody because I'm like,
Oh.
I was like, because I think my biggest flex is I never liked David. In all the vlogs, it's very apparent that I don't like him. So I feel like I always was onto something. I kind of was flung into the group. I didn't choose to be it. I didn't seek it out. I didn't even know who David was. I was kind of like flung into it. I thought, okay, they get a lot of views. Like, I'll go along with it. But never got it, any of them. And I always said that. I was always like, y'all are dubious. And I've called it in every single vlog. So check that footage. Just because I was in
That's true. That is literally true. You know, Trisha Paytas has literally in all the videos where we can see of her and David, she loves to tell David that she flat out hates him. And that video where he's chasing her through the airport, if you know, you know, she's literally like, you know, when the cameras are on, like, I like you and stuff, but I really just don't like you as a person. Like, she flat out always, and that's why the Vlog Squad and the Vlog Squad fans really hated Trisha, because she was so outspokenly, like, rude, if you want to say, towards David and other members, that she didn't want to be a part of it. And that aged very well. That aged very well for Trisha. So, if anything, she was right about that. I had to pause for a second because I saw that one of my deliveries was going to be here, but I'm back.
doesn't mean I condoned him. I just kind of was lost, and I was just like, God. I just want to be with, you know, this person, and this is part of it. But
Jason Nash jump scare. Someone give him a galaxy down below.
it ended up being nothing because they all turned against me. It was so for people like, you had a following. I'm like, not really, just a bunch of people that were mindless drones. But anyways, the devil amongst us, the real horror show, the 17th hour. Dobrik, which was 2017. Really, it was his takeoff. That's when I met him. Was 2017. So it is like the 17th hour.
Yeah.
27.
Not the 17th hour.
I think I really got into him probably 2018. 2019 was my peak obsession.
Wait, after I left was your peak obsession? Because 2018 I was in it. 2019 I had left.
Well, 2019 is when I started interviewing him. So I ended up
traitor.
That's also a crazy piece of lore that I always forget, that Oscar would interview these people. Well, also Oscar interviewed Trisha. I asked him about that in our interview episode together.
Oh, maybe I started 2018. I definitely was still interviewing him in 2019 though, because at VidCon and then the streamies for 2019. Damn. Yeah, he did have a chokehold on me. Did not age well.
Crazy. Like, what was it? Because truly, I really, like, he's a charming person. Like, we talk about this. In person, very charming. But the videos don't even have David in it. Like, David's not in the videos, hardly.
I honestly don't know what it was. Like, I wish I could, like, go back and, like, talk to my younger self to get to, like, figure out what it was. I honestly am... That's a big part of the story, too, that we'll get into. But I honestly do...
That photo was on screen for too long. Is Jimmy the editor? Jimmy, cut the time of the goddamn fucking photo.
I think it was, like, the ensemble. Like, obviously, David is, like, the core. And then the ensemble around him is all, like, attractive people being silly. And that was, like, their life, right? Like, every day was just, like, a weird adventure and, like, a shtick. I don't know.
I think what was really interesting about this as well was I was able to interview Carly, who was a member of the Vlog Squad, for the podcast that I'm doing. And it was really interesting hearing her take on filming with the Vlog Squad, because she said that it just seemed like friends hanging out. And I didn't want to push it too much, but it always just seemed like David was using all of them, but then they were like all using David in return. You know, like David's using them to be like the characters, but then they're getting clout off of it. But at its core, like what Trisha said, David Dobrik wasn't even the funny one. Like, you could say that he was the brains behind it, but he wasn't the funny one. He would obnoxiously laugh, which arguably was one of the worst parts of the videos, but everyone else was the ones that had to entertain or be funny or do the skits or do the stunts. He was not doing any of that. So literally at its core, he wasn't really in his videos. And people like to compare him and David Dobrik, and I definitely think you can definitely draw comparisons with the both of them. But Mr. Beast is in his videos. David Dobrik really isn't in his videos at all. I think the most I've ever seen him in his videos is whenever he was doing apology videos.
I don't either. I never got the appeal. I was like always so confused. It got so many views.
But you were the gateway though, so actually you're trying to clock me, but now I'm gonna Uno reverse and clock you because the only reason I got into David was because of you.
Really?
So, yes.
Oh, I definitely was the funniest in the vlogs.
You were the greatest comedian.
Yes, I was the greatest comedian. Actually, Casey Neistat. When he said that, he was the greatest comedian of our time. I was like, who was it?
Listen, that goddamn smile David does really pisses me off. Put that fucking tongue away. Put a tongue.
Of those thumbnails, me. Like, you know.
Him and Mr. Beast have the craziest smiles ever. Mr. Beast's smile does not go to his eyes. He smiles like this. David smiles like this. Pisses me off.
You know what I mean? I think I really.
This is how you smile. You don't. You somber pite. Like this.
Elevated. Probably before me was Liza, but the vlogs weren't there as much. So definitely like Liza was the star. So I feel like the females, Corinna got a lot. She was in probably a lot of the thumbnails too. So I think the girl.
As cringy as I think Liza is, I do think she was one of the funniest ones.
Carly.
I want to see one thumbnail they were in. We love them. I'm problematic, but also boring.
Oh my god, I loved them back in the day. They were.
Listen, I like Carly and Aaron, and I know Trisha's calling her boring there, but I think Carly was so much fun to get to know, and she is so lovely. I think filming the episode with Carly that I did was probably one of my favorite filming sessions because she's so chronically online. She's so funny, and people really enjoyed in my interview podcast with her, like getting to know her. Obviously, her audience know her, but like a lot of my audience didn't. She was so fucking funny and so amazing. So, Trisha, you need to watch the Chronically Online episode with Carly.
Maybe my favorite part of the vlog squad.
Did you go to their? You did their pop-up, didn't you? You went to their pop-up.
I interviewed Carly and Aaron at their pop-up.
But they didn't like some of your questions.
They didn't like you, but...
Feeling is mutual. No, I will say. No, let me be nice for real. Because honestly, like, they were actually nice to me. Like, you know what I mean? When I called them boring, it was never to be mean. Like, honestly. And I say this all the time as, like, a compliment, you know, when I say something's boring. Like, it's...
Yeah, like, calling Drew and Enya weird. Like, you don't mean that.
They're queens, but no, but like I just think boring is not bad. So when I called them boring, it wasn't meant to be mean.
Yes, I know what you mean.
You know what I mean? Like
boring,
unproblematic,
you mean normal, like well-adjusted, just
like
regular.
Doesn't need to be in a David Dobrik vlog. Like Moses wouldn't fit in a David Dobrik vlog. You know what I mean? Like there's just certain people who don't fit in there. Like, and that's fine.
Damn, not Moses catching strays for no reason.
So it was never like
want
mean.
to get tased in the butt.
Right. Got it emptied out. But I was never like initially trying to be like mean to them because they actually were very nice to me from the beginning. They were always very nice. I remember when I was slowly getting like exiled from the group, like it was me, Carly, and Aaron that just like sat at home. They'd be like, "You guys stay here. We're gonna go out and film." And I would be like, "Ooh." That's when I knew I was getting the shaft. Because I was always, and not in a bad way, but I was like, God, it's just us three sitting here. Like, this
What
is.
did you guys talk about?
We would just be like in David's house by ourselves, and he's like, "Wait till I come back," and we were just like, "Okay." Like it was weird, and we just like hung out and like waited around, maybe watched TV. I don't know. It was a very weird time, but I remember sitting with them and being like, "Oh no, oh no." But no, and it probably is a good thing that you're not featured in the David vlog so much because
I was about to say this concept of like being boring is exactly what I think she tried to save there in the conversation. We're so used to people being so over the top, so in drama, so problematic that we would never call them boring. But when people don't do that and just kind of stay in their lane, it's this same thing of like, remember Trisha used to call like Connor Franta and stuff boring? Or was that who she called boring? You know, like unproblematic people. So it doesn't mean something bad, but inherently it does sound like you're literally just insulting someone. But yeah, I find, I've never met Aaron, but I really, really, really like Carly. I think she's so funny and she is so much more enjoyable to listen and talk to than anything to do with David Dobrik. So I'm so glad that her and Aaron got out of that when they did as well.
You have like a moral compass. I was one that's just like,
and they're also still good with Jeff as well, which I really like.
Or whatever the is doing, like just crazy in these vlogs. So it's not necessarily a bad thing, Carly and Aaron. And honestly, like I really do have the one-sided beef with them, like to be a joke, because I actually like don't mind them at all. They literally do nothing to warrant any hate. So we're at peace. I don't love, but I also don't hate. And I think I'm being mean for no reason. So I'll retract that. Carly and Aaron, keep doing you. And I do have respect for them for cutting Zayn and Heath out for like, I remember everyone was like, like figuring out why. And we don't know why, but we assume because they didn't want to take COVID tests, which I'm like, okay, that's your best friend. You're not going to just take a test. Like it's against our beliefs or whatever. They didn't say that, but like that's what you got from it. And I was just like, just take a test. It's not hurting anyone. It's not like going against like your moral beliefs to take a freaking test. Like just do, like it was so crazy. So I do respect Carly and Aaron for setting those boundaries because Mariah was supposed to be like a bridesmaid and she wasn't in it.
Wedding.
Yeah, and I was like,
Yeah, I remember that. That was a big thing that happened. It was like around like peak COVID. And that was a big scandal of people in the vlog squad not showing up to the wedding because they didn't want to take COVID tests, which is so like, really? Like just what Trisha said. You're not going to take a test just so you can go to your best friend's wedding that you're literally involved in. It's like, that's not a true friend. And I'm glad that everyone was cut off. Again, she's being so mean here. Trisha's being so fucking mean to Carly and Aaron. I'm like, they're catching strays for no reason. And I think Carly and Aaron talked about this on TikTok Live, and they were like, unless Trisha apologizes to us, like, we don't want anything to do with her. Maybe I'm misquoting that. Maybe they didn't say that, but I swear to God I saw that video, but I've also been high the last couple nights, so, like, maybe I got that wrong. But, come on, Trisha, drop it. They're good. Or I can speak for Carly. I like Carly.
gonna be like, oh my God, we're not gonna do that. We don't stand for that. You guys are weirdos. I think that was where the Zayn and Heath villain origin story started for me. Was like that. I was like, you guys are weird. But
Oh, Zayn and Heath really did fall off. I don't hear about them anymore. I don't hear about David anymore either. I only hear about Jason Nash, ironically.
amongst us.
So once again, Casey Neistat talked about his unreleased documentary called Under the Influence, which is it's a really weird story. It started in 2017 is when Casey started working on the documentary. So it started at the height as David was getting bigger and bigger.
Is that what he said, 2017? He said that?
Yeah.
Because I remember it coming around end of 2018. But if he said it before.
It started in 2017.
Okay,
so maybe
like
pre-production.
Yeah, he was covering it for a long time as far as we know. And then it really ramped up when all of the allegations started coming out about Dirty Dom and what he was doing to these girls, and David was recording and there. So that was when it really ramped up, and then the Jeff, and then everything was really 2021, 22, when I think it finally like ended.
Yeah.
Because like I knew Casey started coming around with the idea, and I remember it. I still remember being outside. David had just hit like 10 million subscribers. I remember Casey was out there. Like I remember being outside and him talking about this documentary. So it was like, I don't think they started filming until after I left.
Yeah, they didn't start. I think they were talking about it since 2017, maybe late 2017. I guess early 2018. They didn't start filming it until 2019. Yeah.
He was like, he knew I was gonna be the whistleblower. If Casey started filming on me, I'd be like, I don't trust him. And I actually started saying that then in 2018. Maybe that's why I got exiled from the group. Because I remember I was like, I don't like him. He's misogynistic. Like, I do not like this person. Like, he doesn't even shake my hand. I was like, that's so weird. Like, he's going to talk to all the boys. So I clocked it. So then he's like, gotta get rid of Trish because he knew I would clock that.
They were getting rid of her one way or another, whether it had to do with Jason or not.
So he did another podcast talking about it, and I guess he teased a little bit how much work went into it, which is, again, makes it weird why he never released it. So he hired
Also, the fact that it premiered at South by Southwest and it's not coming out, what the hell? What the hell?
To interview David's parents. He even went back to Slovakia. He went to Illinois to interview David's old teachers and like coaches.
Like, so much work for it not to come out because you're just defending David.
Yeah, that's what he said.
But I thought David came over when he was like 6.
I don't know.
He's like, well, do you remember him as a baby?
Let's go find out where he came from, I guess.
Okay, extra.
So he went through all these crazy lengths for this documentary, and then it premiered in South by Southwest in 2019, and that's like the last that oh no, 2020, I believe. And so it got viewed by a small group of people at the festival, but it was never been released.
Did anyone write reviews on it?
Yes.
A lot of people. Okay. A lot of big names.
About it, like who saw it?
Yeah, because I went back to go look and see like what the reviews were saying, and the reviews it got like good, decent reviews as far as like the documentary goes. But this one line actually is like a really great review. This one line from a review I thought was like kind of iconic. It was, let me find it. Oh, by the end of Neistat's film, the only thing Dobrik can't afford to look at is himself with his tea.
That's good. Yeah. That's a good one.
So basically, it started out as like a documentary kind of profiling like his rise, but then the Dirty Dom.
Literally, that's what we're saying, which is even more frustrating because Casey Neistat said that the reason for this was to document the rise of YouTube's biggest creator. And then in turn, during the covering of that, all these allegations came out, and now he's choosing not to publish it or send it off or in any way allow people outside of the premiere people to see it, even though he says he respects the victims so much and he spent so much time being delicate to them and letting them know that they were heard, they're not heard when you go on a podcast and be like, oh, I don't want David to, have to deal with himself because, he'll get backlash for what he's done to himself. And all like this. It's like, fuck you.
It happened. And then the Jeff expose also happened. And then it ended up taking a turn. And Casey said that at one point he didn't really know what to do with the documentary, but then someone he was working with said, no, like these events are the documentary. Yeah. So then he went back and did another interview with David, especially after the Dirty Dom stuff came out.
And he just kept saying that David's interviews weren't good, that he kept giving David more and more and more opportunities, but David just wasn't speaking well. But that's on David. Like, why are you catering towards him to make him look as good as possible, and then when he doesn't, you're like, oh, I'm not going to post it.
And
don't tell us this.
And then that kind of became like the main meat of the documentary. So he did one last interview with David about like the allegations and stuff, and then that one interview was threaded throughout. So it like opened with it and was like in all these different parts. And then he said, this was back when the documentary premiered, said that David has seen it. He obviously doesn't like it. And that was the last time they talked, was when he did that last interview.
So he's protecting someone he doesn't even fucking talk to.
The background. So it's interesting that Casey says he still feels conflicted about releasing it because, like you said, he calls David one of the greatest comedians YouTube has ever had.
Crazy line.
There was certainly a wrongdoing on a myriad of people's behalf, including David, who made a very tongue-in-cheek video on the situation, even though he didn't understand the severity of the situation.
Tongue-in-cheek because David didn't understand the severity of the situation. Why are we always giving these men excuses? They are grown people. Oh my God. You will never see people giving women the amount of excuses that they will give a grown man. Oh, he didn't understand the severity. Shut the fuck up. Shut the fuck up.
There was a bad guy that was platformed by David unknowingly. That bad guy did very bad things.
And David Dobrik grew up together in Vernon Hills. He knows everything that went down. Riley Reid has gone on record and saying she wasn't comfortable with situations that he was trying to get them to have sex. Like, so many girls have come forward. I have come forward. So many people have come forward. And there was obviously the victim of that one big incident that happened, which Casey said he interviewed and even thanked her for sharing the story and then didn't put it out. And he's like, I'm conflicted. Why? Sharing this like victim story who was like so nice of you to like let that out there and you could like help so many people. Yeah. Or it's a boys club and you're just trying to prick David because you're a misogynistic piece.
Well, he literally said that. He said something along the lines of, I don't want David to have to go through what it will come. Fuck ye. Fuck ye.
Like, that's crazy to me. But I'm so conflicted. Yes, David was wrong. And yes, David had thought, and he didn't understand the totality. David's very smart. David's known Dom for a long time. His name is Dirty Dom. His name's always been Dirty Dom in the vlogs. David was his roommate.
And the bit was that Dirty Dom was so sleazy. So all these bits were about Dom being sleazy.
Every single situation that happened to, like, write that off.
David made money off of that, by the way.
Condescending, belittling.
He made money off of Dirty Dom, putting these girls in this situation. But he didn't know better.
Interviewed the victim and had the story for her to tell, and he like thanked her for like allowing to share the story, so she was like vulnerable, relived it, all this stuff like that, and then didn't put it out because he's conflicted. Because why? He said David's a piece of David doesn't want to talk to him for a reason. David didn't handle it well, all according to Casey Neistat. But then he's like, I don't know if I should put it out. It's like because he wants to protect him. There's no other reason, or he just wants money and he's greedy, and that's probably all of the above.
Yeah, and then Casey even says in this interview, he said, maybe some part of me, as much as I'm ashamed to admit it, still very deeply loves and cares for David. Maybe it's about protecting him from himself.
Yeah.
But I also feel a responsibility to the victim. It doesn't really sound like it.
I was about to say, no, it doesn't sound like you do, especially because you could just not be saying this on a podcast. You could just not be saying that you'll feel bad for David or he doesn't know better. But you could just not be saying that. So you then being like, oh, but I care about the victim. You could have easily just not said any of this. But now the victim knows, and all the people you spoke to know, that if that documentary ever does, or probably will never come out, the reason is because you're protecting David Dobrik. Great filmmaker, Casey Neistat, by the way. Great job. Great job.
It sounds like you are choosing David over the victim.
You're protecting David from the monster that he is, which probably your documentary shows, because I'm assuming, like, even if he tries to paint it, like, as unbiased as possible, which he probably did, it's like, it still showed David being a monster piece of shit like had multiple incidents, by the way. It's not like an isolated incident with Dom. There was like multiple incidents that people have talked about since, and Riley Reid has come on and talked about it. Like so many people have talked about uncomfortable instances with Dom. So it's not like an isolated thing. David was still talking to Dom and supporting him after all this came out after it came out in 2019, 2020. So it's literally Casey trying to protect David for some unknown reason, even though they don't talk and they're not friends anymore.
Again, this was just interesting to me that, again, he tried to get out of it by being like, but we don't talk, we don't whatever, I'm just protecting him. So trying to make it that there wasn't something going on there. It probably has something to do with behind the scenes they see each other at events still. And he doesn't want to make it awkward. And that sucks. That sucks that he's choosing to do that. It shows he has no integrity whatsoever. I can't believe he literally premiered this at South by Southwest and now is choosing, I don't want to go forward with it. Has something happened behind the scenes, Casey? Are you not allowed to talk about it anymore? Have you been sued? Have you got a cease and desist? Has the victim got a cease and desist? Like, what has happened? Or are you genuinely just not wanting David to go through the backlash? Because then why would you have gone through all the work of, in your words, you needed to complete the documentary? A lot of questions here.
It's really just Casey being probably greedy and also just misogynistic and not wanting to help a woman, like a victim and all that stuff like that, because it's very odd that he wouldn't put it out. Because if nothing else, it's like put it out to like share that person's story, to show like the truth of it all, to show David's reaction, because like David didn't handle it well. Okay, let's see it. Let's see what David said about it, because no one else has been able to get that.
So in 2022, Casey talked about his like that final interview with David where he asked specifically about like the allegations against Dirty Dom. Casey asked David, do you feel responsible? And David's response was, the Insider article was written because this place wanted clicks. It wasn't written because the company's going and looking after the victim and making sure she's okay.
David said that?
Yes, that was his response. So
that's wild.
Yeah.
That's so wild, because also like I do think two things can be true.
Which is absolutely disgusting. It's absolutely disgusting because the work that went into that article was insane. And people don't realize how much work a journalist has to do that doesn't even get seen in the article, with lawyers talking to victims and stuff like that. So to kind of push it off as just wanting clicks, it's a very predictable take for you to have. Seems like you're just obsessed with me. That's why you're talking about me. No, there were actual victims here who needed to have a voice. And how would they get a voice? One of these legacy media. You weren't going to respond to this if there wasn't an article. That's why you're pissed off. The victims doing tweets, you could push it under the rug. But you have like actual articles from Business Insider. That scares you. That's why you're saying that it's all about just getting clicks and stuff.
Like David Dobrik is a very big story, but obviously there was something there. Otherwise, it would never be written. Like people actually like do journalism to like help victims, to like get a voice out there, to like let it. Because if it wasn't for people coming forward, and more people wouldn't have come forward, because it was a lot of things. Like even Jeff was protecting David. It's like it takes like one person to pull it. It's like the Mr. Beast thing, right? One person has a thing, and then it's like this domino effect or whatever. In fact, those girls, the ones that talk about the underage drinking, they had reached out to me in 2019 when I made my original video. I remember this so specifically, and they're like, we want to come forward. Like, thank you so much for sharing it, because like this and this happened. That's why I was able to corroborate it when it did come out in 2020, because I remember those girls being like, we really want to like share our story of what happened. I have a whole detailed email from those girls and being like, because of you, like we want to talk about it, but we're scared of the backlash. But in 2019, I got a backlash because David was still really popular. Natalie, I was looked at as a crazy one. No one wanted to talk to me. But because their article came out, then Jeff came out, then it starts like, then people start looking into it. And now where's David? He's hiding. He's on Snapchat. He's hiding and whatever. And he has enough money, whatever. It's fine. But the fact that it's like he's getting protected once again by so many people, including Casey.
That's again, why is Casey protecting him when David isn't even at the hands of a comment section anymore? David's fine. David has this Snapchat deal or whatever's going on, and he posts on Snapchat like 100 times a day. There's no comment section. So even social media-wise, he will not be affected by this. So Casey, what is it?
You have this like, and Casey as a friend, as someone who is doing this too, like he's even saying David didn't handle this well. And that's why he's saying like an understatement. So it's like, why wouldn't you want to put it out there for like everyone to see? Like there's no reason other than you want to protect him because you like him. And I think that's like shitty journalism, or just filmmaker on top of that, because like I had to finish it. I didn't want to leave anything unfinished, and it's like,
Because you remember he did another interview a while ago about it, and he kept saying like the world needs to see this movie, and I want to make sure the most eyes are going to get to see it. They're like, but you're waiting for somebody to just pay you to buy the movie and put it on whatever, Hulu, Netflix. You can put it on your platform right now, and millions of people are going to see it.
100 million.
Just put it on your
Easily.
platform, and you're going to make the money that you wanted to make from it. Like
It's doing nothing now, and you just look.
Okay, interesting. So I had said earlier that all these like Netflix and stuff wanted the documentary, right? Maybe I read that wrong. Maybe that wasn't the case. Maybe none have offered yet. I thought I had read somewhere that a lot of these distributors wanted it. Maybe I was wrong, or maybe I'm right. I do not know, and I can't confirm, so I'll just say I don't know and I'm wrong. But it would make sense as well that if none have, therefore he would lose the money by just putting it on his channel rather than it going to a distributor. That makes more sense as to why he's not doing it. So both are bad for him. One shows that he wants to protect David and he's willing to lose money. The other is he wants to gain money on the story before he can do... You know what I mean? Both aren't great, Casey.
You look like you're... Yeah, Paris Hilton did that. She put out a documentary on her YouTube and it has like 100 million views. Like it's very possible and people would want to see it, and it is a weird... Casey gives me like bad vibes. I would love to see it. I would love her to prove me wrong and him put this out and be like, wow, he actually did a good thing and showed like he started out being a friend of David, uncovered some that happened and put it out there. Then it'd be like a whole redemption arc for Casey Neistat. But right now, the way he's doing interviews is very unappealing.
It is really weird because again, like in earlier, like after the film premiered in like 2022, like I went to go read like other Casey interviews, and he didn't sound like he wasn't talking like super positive about David. He said that like I wasn't naive about like what David was doing. I kept like asking him questions about like he was there when Jonah did like the stunt on the motorcycle and had to go to the hospital. And he talked about how like,
another one where a member gets injured, of course.
And then he sent someone else to go. David sent someone to go to the hospital with Jonah, but then David stayed to edit the footage because he wanted to turn the vlog around.
Yeah.
And then Casey said that he asked David, he was like, are these people like your actual friends, or are they just like your coworkers? And David didn't have he hesitated. He wouldn't respond. And Casey was like, I honestly was shocked. I thought he would be offended at the question. Like, of course they're my friends, but he didn't say that. So it's weird that he like really flipped and went so pro David now, saying that he's the greatest comedian, a great person. I was trying to protect, like, I love him.
That's why I truly don't believe that behind the scenes they're not talking or something. I may be completely wrong, but why are you so up his ass after you discovered that he's a horrible person? Oh, because you see the good in everyone, Casey.
One David funny moment. Like, he's a funny editor. I think there's like a difference, but like David was just like never on camera, like being the butt of a joke or making a joke. Like nothing. Like I feel like nothing.
Yeah.
I don't know. And he also is not even a writer. I feel like anytime I'd say something, like, oh, repeat that, whatever, like that. It's like everyone around was funny. I mean, Zayn and Heath are funny. I can't stand them, but they're funny. And, you know, like, I was funny. Liza, obviously. Like, everyone around him was very funny, you know. And, of course, they had the boring ones, like Scotty and stuff. But Scotty and Todd, they brought the, you know, the good looks. You know, they have to bring something. But I feel like, yeah.
There will never not be an opportunity where Trisha Paytas does not try to clock Scotty.
And then obviously stuff with Jeff, it's like, how do you even protect that? Like, I think it's like, that's also like one of the, obviously the Dom stuff. It's like, yes, he platformed him, but David also recorded all of it happening. Like, he recorded the girls that were underage drinking. He recorded everything. He was there. He was very complicit to it. But then on top of it, the accident with Jeff, like, yes, it was an accident, but him now trying to like blame Jeff for like driving the vehicle and blaming Jeff for all this stuff, which obviously Jeff's going through a lot. We have seen he is having some, in my opinion, some PTSD. Like, he seems like he's going through some sure. And it's like, for David and Natalie to still like cover it up and forge signatures and hide it all, like, it's actually wild. Instead of being like, gosh, yeah, this was a really terrible thing that happened to our friend, like, let me make it right, he's like trying to blame Jeff. Like, that to me is like the ultimate like actual like, I don't know what to say. I was gonna say double, but that's like even too nice. I was like, it's just actually wild how he gets away with stuff.
He's so entitled, or it's a form of narcissism or something, that he feels like, I give them everything, like I'm at the top of the pyramid. Like,
that's what it is. It's all about David having the control over all these people and all their platforms and all their money and all their income and how much he shows them on screen, therefore how much money and attention they get.
Everything, and that's just part of it. Your casualties, like he probably thinks Jeff should still thank him for being in that league.
Yeah.
And that's what they're saying in the lawsuit. They're like, well, Jeff got views because of David. Fuck off.
Insider.
He nearly died because of him.
About it. Like, you know what I
Yeah.
mean? It's like everyone is doing it for clicks, for views, to get followers. And at that point, he was at the top of the world. So
Yeah, you could say
he's never looking at anyone below him as an equal ever.
so. It's like, yeah, you could say that like about me. Oh, Trisha's just looking for like clicks or whatever. But also, like, you think Rolling Stone, Business Insider, Casey Neistat, they're all doing it just for like clicks. It's like there's a common theme, and that theme is David is awful, and what he's putting out is content. It's not helping anyone. It's hurting a lot of people. So what? And then he's like, oh, it's all for clicks. It's all for this. It's like. No, and it's like our podcast too. Even though we put him in the title, it's like no, we just want people to not forget how awful you are currently to this day, still being awful and not like hiding stuff and trying to say Jeff drove it. And also, and people
Also, if someone does something bad and all of us talk about it, that's not our responsibility. It's yours for doing something fucking shitty.
don't want to forget because he did get away with it. He had to take zero accountability. He said, "I'm sorry." Twice. The first time it didn't work, so he tried it again without a microphone, and then everyone's like, okay, but like. He's still living the life on Snapchat and getting paid and stuff. So it's like you never got any accountability. I feel like people would be like off if he was like trying to do some work and trying to help like people like those girls, anything, financial compensation for Jeff, something. But he's doing zero accountability. He's doing the opposite. He's getting away with it and pinning everything on Jeff and pinning everything on Dom. And Casey's not helping it, being like he had no idea. He didn't understand. It's like okay, yeah, you did. Otherwise, you are just as dumb. Which maybe I don't know. Maybe Casey does like. Lack a little intelligence when it comes to this cause.
That's why I'm confused. 'Cause,
Yeah.
like,
Well, what's sad as well is Casey Neistat is such an OG YouTuber that a lot of people have a lot of respect for, and it's sad to see. And people really respected this documentary about David, and it's really sad that he's willing to throw all that away for protecting David, who isn't even on YouTube anymore. Like David is only on Snapchat now, so like, why is Casey doing that?
in his other interviews before this one, he's literally says like, I wanted to figure out how David was getting away with what he was getting away with. Like that was a literal quote when he was talking about it, like promoting it after South by Southwest. So it's very
He went to the lengths of premiering it at South by Southwest.
He doesn't call these people, like when he refers to Jeff or Dirty Dom, he says like David
Cast
had
members.
castmates.
Yeah.
It's like, wait, the verbiage he's using is so like specific that I think that's why a lot of people are like, is David like paying you to say it? Like that's the big
Right.
conspiracy going around, which is interesting because the words he's using are like so specific that I'm like,
and not mentioning the people's names. It's like
not
Jeff,
mentioning-
Dom.
yeah. It's so weird. It's
'Cause
so
it is-
weird.
It is kind of classic behavior when somebody has a material and they shop around. So they talk a lot about, I want to put it out there. The most people will see it. He's just waiting to get paid. Now the question, who's going to pay? The person that wants to hide the tape or the person that wants to show the tape? So most likely David did something for him.
That's what
to-
I,
like buy out the rights.
Yeah,
because
because that's what was happening even with P. Diddy and other people. Like people say, we have tapes. The tapes are around. We're going to put, and they just wait to see who will approach and give them the more money.
I
to-
saw that on TikTok. I think it was on David's own TikTok, or maybe not. Maybe someone posted David's Snapchat.
Again, a great theory that if Netflix were willing to pay this amount, was David willing to pay even more so it doesn't come out? We don't know. I just don't understand why Casey would go to the lengths of completing the documentary. It's done. He said he needed to finish it. He has so much respect for all the victims. And he's choosing not to post it. Something is not adding up. It actually does not make sense.
Story on TikTok.
And you're not friends with David now? You don't talk to him?
People will be like the David Dobrik parties will be like a P Diddy party. Like who was at the Dobrik parties? You know what I mean? And not saying it's like in that severity. Maybe I don't know. I didn't see any of that. But it's like, yeah, it's a little sus the whole thing because he's still doing like these lavish Halloween parties and
yeah.
and people and all influencers are still going. And I'm not trying to call them out specifically by name, but it's like so many people. I'm just like, what and why? Like it really is. Because he really is an awful person. Like, just unanimously, he's like a bad person. Like, we've seen
Yeah.
this because it's not like he's done some mistakes or he just was a kid. Like, he's literally just like covering things and hiding things. And we see that with Jeff and with the lawsuit and him just trying to place all the blame on Jeff, which is like so crazy. It's like so wild. There's tape. You messed up. Okay, just admit it. But to say it was Jeff's idea, Jeff drove, Jeff all that. It's like, that's crazy. Jeff begged me to do it. Like, crazy. It's actually
It's just never, it can never be on David.
And knowingly, he's like an actual person currently. Is actually insane.
And what makes it even worse is in the dark, like hearing Casey talk about that final interview and like in the reviews, people talking about this final interview where David doesn't come across well at all. Like literally the people who saw it always say that like like in every article I read, it's like it's cringy how he can't take any accountability. Like he shifts the blame, and again, the Dirty Dom one, and like specifically like the essay allegations, like they are very serious, and there's so much proof, and he was there. And
Oh my God, the more I'm listening to this, the more frustrated I get that David just gets to get away with this. Like, we're hearing the people that saw this documentary, like Oscar saying, are saying that David comes across so horribly in how he's dealing with sensitive topics. And it's like, we don't get to see that. We don't get to see how one of the biggest creators handles all this because he's being protected. Isn't that always how it goes? But he's being protected by Casey Neistat, which is really weird.
and even that, like he shifts the blame too.
And why did Casey tell us that he's protecting him?
Which is
That's the
wild.
person you're mad at is Kat Tannenbarge for writing the article.
Yeah, being like they want clicks. Like that.
Kat Tannenbarge? No, Oscar. No, Oscar, we talked about Kat when we were face to face, and we called her Kat Tannenbarge. I don't know where you're getting Tannenbarge from.
Allegations, like they are very.
Is he definitely saying Kat?
So much proof, and he was there, and even that, like he shifts the blame to who inside Kat Tannenbarge recovering it.
Yeah,
like,
which is
that's the
wild.
person you're mad at is Kat Tannenbarge for writing the article.
Yeah,
like,
being like they want clicks. Like that alone
so
shows you what
weird.
a person
Exactly.
it is.
Reading that, I was like, oh, like he actually is a menace. Like just bad. Like that is. It gives me the ick to even like read that. Like. To have no accountability whatsoever.
Zero.
And that's what is so annoying is that it's in the footage. So and I feel like these articles and these reviews about the documentary you have to really seek them out, right? Because like even me, like I didn't really know about them until this morning when I was looking them up. And I'm like, you have that on video, and if that video gets out there, like
I mean, big media places did write about it, but it was just like 2 years ago now, you know what I mean? So it's like died in the media storm. But if it came out, like I think Casey owes it to the audience for this to come out as well. And he owes it to the victims that he cares allegedly so much about.
obviously there's no going back from that. Like seeing David in 4K, like mask off, taking no accountability, doesn't think he did anything wrong at all. Like you can't walk that back. So obviously that's why David doesn't want it out. But it's so annoying and just like, I don't know how anyone can like be pro Casey after that, because it seems very much like you sold your morals, you know what I mean? Like, because you even
definitely
he knows, like Casey knows. Casey says like it wasn't good. David didn't come across well. He says I gave David opportunity after opportunity to talk about it and take accountability for it, and he didn't.
Because David doesn't think he does anything wrong. He thinks I don't think he thinks anything's wrong. I don't think what Dom did was wrong. I think the only reason he had to come out against Dom was because there was so much pressure on him. But that's like his number one. That was like his best friend. So it's like he probably only had to, because he felt pressured to, but like he doesn't think he did anything wrong. He thinks everyone's in the wrong. The girls are in the wrong. Well, they were in my vlog. They wanted the clout. They wanted this. Like I know his mentality and the way he thinks, and it's like, and everyone does at this point. So that's why I feel like I don't want to let up, and other people shouldn't either. And like, in Casey talking about it just makes it worse. It's like, okay, just stop talking about it.
That's what I'm saying. Why are you coming out to tell us that you're not going to publish it?
Because it's not looking good. If I won the lottery tonight, I thought about it. I was like, maybe I'd buy it, but I don't want to go and give Casey the money. Yeah, I was like,
We'll just keep talking about it. And there's people. That's the thing. People have seen it, so it's not like no one has ever seen it. We'll go and we'll find every single person who has seen it. We'll sit them down.
He said the victim who came forward about Dom has seen it.
Yes.
So I do have her email.
I kind of think so. I think Spillsesh said that she saw it too. I think Christy
Spillsesh saw it?
I think she was also.
Back then they sent links for people, influencers, and
what?
YouTubers
to see it.
I think so.
We didn't get to see it.
That's
Crazy.
I didn't get to see it either. But Kat, who wrote the Business Insider article, did go to it, so I can always ask Kat about what it was.
A lot of women on that, yeah.
Although we already talked about that a couple years ago, I think. All right, well, we'll leave it there, but I do think it's really interesting just that Casey is saying this, that he decided to tell us, because he just practically said something that is getting him ridiculed by the internet, and there was no real reason for him to tell us this. He literally just came forward and be like, I'm protecting David, I'm not doing this. And it's like, okay, so why did you tell us that? I think it's unfortunate, and I think it's telling of Casey's character, and I think it's really sad that a YouTube OG is willing to fall down in defending David, even though he's completed the doc. Muckers, let me know your opinion. We'll talk about it down below. I appreciate you being here, and goodbye.